السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So we are continuing our discussion regarding Islamic manners, the etiquette of character, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the pious predecessors regarding the way that we should carry ourselves throughout the day. And we have been discussing, in the last lecture, we discussed some preliminary issues of entering the household, how one should not startle others when entering into the household, what one should recite when entering into the home. They should say Bismillah, they should say Assalamu alaikum, and so on and so forth. And I'll be discussing this, I'll be furthering this discussion, inshallah, regarding visiting others, so entering or leaving a house. The next thing, and as I mentioned, we are covering the book by Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda called Islamic Manners. So we are covering this in order. So the next thing that he mentions in regards to entering or leaving the house is to announce your presence. When entering a house, make your presence known to those inside before you approach them. So we should avoid startling or frightening someone and descending upon them suddenly. And I mentioned this, how this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that when he would return back from a travel or from war or from a battle, he would not enter into his home in the middle of the night. He would rather camp out on the outskirts of the city, on the outskirts of Medina, and then in the daytime, in the morning time, come back home, even though it's his own home, right? So some people may think that this is my home. I can enter whenever I want to enter. Why should I worry about it? But there is legitimate reason to do so. As I mentioned, there are two reasons. One that is mentioned here, one that is mentioned in the actual hadith. The first that is mentioned in the hadith is that the family should prepare for their family members when they're coming home. So the wife should prepare herself, dress up, trim unwanted hairs, so to look good for the husband when he's coming home. Likewise, if the wife is out of the house and coming home, the husband should also look good and prepare himself for her. But at the same time, you don't want to startle anyone in the middle of the night. So coming home in the middle of the night, even if it's your own family members, you don't know that right away. So someone enters into the home, you get scared, you get frightened. You may be in a situation in which you don't want other family members to see you. And this will be discussed a little bit later as well. So these are reasons why the Prophet ﷺ would announce his presence before visiting. Abu Ubaidah Amir ibn Abdullah bin Mas'ud, so the son of Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, the famous companion, he said that my father, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, used to announce his arrival by calling his family in a cordial tone. So he used to make his arrival known. When a person enters into his home, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi says, the famous Imam of the Madhahib, of the Hanbali Madhab, he says that when a person enters his home, it is recommended that he makes noise, right? He makes it apparent that he is home. So either he should clear his voice, he should clear his throat, cough to make others know that you are at home, or tapping your shoes, or stepping a little bit louder, making your footprints known, to make it known that you are coming home, the sound of your feet. When returning home from the masjid, his son, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal's son, said that my father used to announce his arrival before entering by tapping with his shoes or clearing his throat. So these are some of the sunnahs of the Prophet ﷺ, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and the fuqaha. Now, the reason why you want to enter, one of the other reasons why it is recommended to seek permission before one enters is narrated by Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi in his Muwatta, that Ata ibn Yasar, who was a famous companion as well of the Prophet ﷺ, he asked, should I seek permission to enter my mother's room? Right? This is your mom, this is your mother, right? He's asking, can I just enter into her room? Or do I have to ask permission? Should I knock on the door, or should I ask permission? Can I enter the room before entering? The Prophet ﷺ said, ask permission. You should ask permission to join her. Then the companion said, well, actually, this was not Ata ibn Yasar who was who was speaking to the Prophet ﷺ, he is narrating the hadith. So Ata ibn Yasar is saying that a man asked the Prophet ﷺ this. So then this man started to argue with the Prophet ﷺ and said that, but I serve her, I do her khidmat. Shouldn't I just be able to enter into her room without asking permission? And the Prophet ﷺ said that, ask for permission. Would you like to see her unclothed? Perhaps she will be in a state in which you would not like to see your mother or your family members for that matter. That is why it's important to seek permission before entering into the home, before entering into a family member's room. So the man, of course, he said, no, of course, I would not want to see my mother unclothed. So the Prophet ﷺ said, then ask permission before entering. So it is a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you can say, to knock on the door or to ring the doorbell, although they did not have a doorbell at that time, obviously, but to make it aware or to ask permission to enter before entering one's home. Now, Shaykh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda, rahmatullahi alayhi, he mentions something very interesting. He says, when you go to someone's home, do not knock loudly and violently or ring the doorbell continuously, right? The etiquette, the proper etiquette is to ring the doorbell once and then leave some time for the individual, right? Perhaps the person is praying salah, perhaps the person is using the restroom, perhaps the person is doing something else that he is busy with at that time, he's on a phone call or in a meeting. So don't keep ringing the doorbell. He may have heard you, she may have heard you, just give some time. After a couple minutes, you can ring it again, and then wait a couple minutes, and after a couple minutes, ring it again, and after the third time, just leave, right? No need to keep on bothering the person. Now, this is an interesting story, a slightly humorous story, that a woman came to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, rahmatullahi alayhi, to ask him a question. And she banged on his door loudly. She was banging on his door. So he came out saying, this is the banging of the police. Like, what are you doing? Are you trying to scare me? Are you trying to arrest me? What is the purpose of you banging so loudly? And he was trying to teach her that this is not how you bang on the door, you knock on the door of people. So we knock on the door gently and softly. On another side note, kind of humorous story, one time I had a teacher who was from Somalia, and mashallah, he had amazing etiquette. So when he would enter into the room, he would knock so lightly that you could barely hear him. And so one time I was in a room at the madrasa and I heard a little tap on the door. And I felt like maybe someone is knocking, maybe someone is not, but let me just go check. And so I went and I checked and I said, I could barely even hear you knocking. Why didn't you knock louder? And he told me that his father, when he was younger, when he was younger, his father was very particular about not knocking on the door loudly when you enter into the home. So he says that even till this day, I feel that my father is going to be in the room. Perhaps he's going to be in the room or something, so he may get mad. So I tap very lightly, just following the etiquette that his father taught him. So this is the etiquette of our pious predecessors. When you enter into someone's home or when you're at someone's home and they're asking, who is it, right? It is the sunnah to identify oneself clearly, right? So Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda, Shaykh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda rahmatullahi says, if you knock on a door and are asked, who is it? Identify yourself by giving your common name. Do not respond with, it is me, right? This is very common. People do this, me, right? Who is at the door? You're knocking the door. Who is it? Me, right? That's not how we're supposed to respond. As a matter of fact, we're supposed to make it clear that Zishan is at the door or whoever is knocking at the door. Make it clear. The Prophet ﷺ actually, in a hadith, this happened where someone came to ask the Prophet ﷺ something. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, actually, Jabir bin Abdullah radiallahu anhuma, he came to the Prophet ﷺ. He says that I came to the Prophet ﷺ and I knocked on his door and he asked, who is it? And so I answered, Ana, it is me. So the Prophet ﷺ disapprovingly said, Ana, me, what is this? Basically, the Prophet ﷺ was teaching him that this is not how you're supposed to respond. So for this reason, the companions used to mention their names whenever they were asked, who is it, right? So we should not make it ambiguous. Me could be anybody, right? Obviously, anyone can be me. If someone says me, you don't know who that is, except if you could tell by their voice. But even then, you should not leave that ambiguous. You should make it clear who you are. Another important thing about visiting others is to keep one's appointment. The Prophet, Allah Ta'ala said in Surah Ma'idah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. O you who believe, fulfill your promises. So whenever you give a promise that you are going to come to someone's house, or you are going to come to someone's party, or you will come to someone's walima, for example, you should make sure to fulfill that. You should not just say that, yes, I will come, or inshallah, I will come, knowing that you may or may not come. Because if you even say inshallah, and this is very common, unfortunately, where we say, inshallah, yeah, I'll try to make it. But you know in the back of your mind that you won't be making it, that you don't have intention to come. And as a matter of fact, that will be considered lying. Shaykh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda mentions that this is the right of the other persons who, despite other commitments, favored you with the part of their valuable time. Someone who is inviting you to their party, if you say that, yes, inshallah, I will try to come, they will designate a spot for you there, right? That means that if it's a limited amount of people that can come, they won't be inviting other people. They will only be, they will make sure that this spot is kept for you and the other people who have RSVP, the people who have responded that they will be coming. So if you do not come on time, not only have you disrupted their schedule, but you have also marred your image and reputation. If your punctuality becomes poor, you will lose people's respect. And so that is why Shaykh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda rahmatullahi alayhi is mentioning the importance of keeping one's appointment. As a personal story, but it's a good story that everyone can learn from, inshallah. As the wise saying that a smart man learns from one's own mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. Many years ago, I was invited to a walima, and I told the person who invited me that I have intention of coming. My family and I, we plan on coming. This was several years ago. And unfortunately, I did not come. Something came up, and I thought that it wasn't too big of a deal. So I did not inform the person in advance. But later on did I learn that everyone at my table ended up not coming. So I believe only 2 or 3 people that were supposed to, the host, what he did is he kept assigned seating for the entire walima. So at every table, there were name cards that each person, this person will sit here, this person will sit here. So there was assigned seating. And it just so happened to be that everyone at my table, except 2 or 3 individuals, did not show up. And so the host, he actually felt really bad about this. And I learned this afterwards. And it happened to be as well that table was near the front of the entire banquet hall, so near the stage. So it looked bad that all of the other tables were filled except for this one. So I learned from that, and I apologized to him, and I learned the mistake, right? That if you are going to tell someone that you are coming to their party or you are coming, then make sure you come, and if you cannot, then let them know in advance so that they can make other arrangements, right? These are things that that we should definitely keep in mind, so that we do not cause difficulty to others. This leads to a very important discussion regarding declining one's visit. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, as was described by the Sahaba themselves, that كانوا أقل تكلفا, they were the least, they were the people who had the least takalluf, the least formalities. If they wanted something, they would mention it. If they didn't want something, then they would say that, no, I do not want it, right? This is a very bad habit that unfortunately we have nowadays, that even if we want something and we are asked, do you want this? We say, no, 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 expecting the person to keep on asking, and then eventually we say, yes, we will take that. But that is not how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were. As another, as a funny story, this person that I know very well, he said that he is Gujarati, and he married a woman who was from Hyderabad. So he was telling me that in the Gujarati culture, there is no, they have very little takalluf. They're very open with their hosts. And so when he first got married, he did not know this, that Hyderabadis were so particular about takalluf. They had a lot of takalluf. When you ask them for food, they say no, expecting you to keep on asking. So whenever he said that this caused a little bit of a problem at the beginning of his marriage, because when he would ask his in-laws, do you want food? They would say no. And so he would just assume, okay, they don't want food, and he would just eat the food. But later on did he realize that they were just expecting him to say that, yes, we want the food. They expected him to keep on asking if they wanted the food. And then eventually they would say yes. So these type of formalities can cause a lot of issues. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum were not like this. They were very open. So if you go to someone's house, Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda is mentioning, and they tell you, go home, right? I'm sorry, I cannot host you right now. I'm busy. Do not be offended by that. Allah Ta'ala Himself says in the Quran, وَإِن قِيلَ لَكُمُ ارْجِعُوا فَارْجِعُوا. In Surah Nur, Allah Ta'ala says, if you are asked to go back, if you go and visit someone's house and you are told, go back, irji'u, meaning I cannot host you right now, sorry, I'm busy, I'm caught up with some other things. Farji'u, then go back. Huwa azka lahum, that is greater in purity. So that is a better thing for you. Do not be offended by that. If you're asking someone to hang out with one of your friends and they're not able to, you should not be offended by that. Likewise, if someone asks you, and if you cannot host them properly, or you are busy, or something is going on in your life at that time and you cannot give time to that person, then you should not feel bad, nor should you give false hopes. Rather, you should just be clear and say, I'm sorry, I'm busy at this time. So we should learn the culture of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. We should learn these things, the etiquettes that Allah Ta'ala, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the fuqaha, that the Sahaba, that they taught us. And inshallah, these things will allow us to live our lives in a way that we are all happy with one another, and mutually there will be no problems among one another. So I ask Allah Ta'ala to give us the correct understanding. In tomorrow's discussion, we will also continue. There's a couple more chapters that, a couple more sections that Shaykh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda brings regarding visiting others. And then we will be speaking about the etiquettes of conversation. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.